Hi, I'm Tony Maserati, and this is the Acoustic Workshop Control Room module. Hi, I'm Tony Maserati, and this is the Acoustic Workshop Control Room module. Hi, I'm Tony Maserati, and this is the Acoustic Workshop Control Room module. Hi, I'm Tony Maserati, and this is the Acoustic Workshop Control Room module. Hi, I'm Tony Maserati, and this is the Acoustic Workshop Control Room module. Hi, I'm Tony Maserati, and this is the Acoustic Workshop Control Room module. If you are considering building or developing acoustic space for music production, film or TV, or educational facilities, Acoustic Workshops modules were conceived in an effort to change the paradigm between real estate and studio building. In the past, studio building has always been either in a purchased space or a leased space and a huge investment in that space, creating a difficult paradigm between the value of the real estate and the value of the build of the studio space. Acoustic Workshop changes all that. Now you can get the same acoustic value from a traditional build in an environment that is self-supporting, that has every bit of quality that any traditional studio build has. But you can move it, and you can lease it, and you can customize it, and you can listen to it before you buy it, and you can trade it, sell it, ship it, and build upon it and make it bigger, make it smaller. You can change your footprint in your leased space easily. It is a solution to a problem that has existed for a very long time, has never been addressed before. Myself, Martin Pilchner, Thomas Reichstad have created an environment that allows you to think about an acoustic space as something that you can develop in any space without consideration of how long your lease is or whether or not the value of your real estate will surpass the value of your studio business. Myself and Martin Pilchner have conceived this and developed it over the past 4 years. And I'm sitting in the first Acoustic Workshop Control Room module. What you see here is actually been conceived and developed by Martin and his team. I've been mixing in this space for a few days now, and with this simple setup that I have here, my usual speakers and amplifier, the space is performing better than my traditional built studio in Los Angeles. We are in our fabrication facility in Duluth, Minnesota, which is where we assembled this first Acoustic Workshop control room. You are listening to my voice in it, and you can see the finishes remind you of any traditional build. The walls are by design meant to hold up the ceiling and the structure that is the ceiling. There are 6 trusses that contain the ceiling modules. The walls are 18 inches thick. They are treated with acoustic material for optimal sound isolation, as well as giving me great imaging in my listening position. The Acoustic Workshop Control Room module can be extended in size, in width, in height. It fits in environments that otherwise may just be warehouse space, or it fits in any office building. The electrical system utilizes two 15-amp circuits. The concept for acoustic workshop control room modules came about when Martin Pilchner and I were discussing my needs for a control room in the Los Angeles area. I had recently moved from New York to Los Angeles. I needed simply two control rooms to manage my team and the work that I was doing at the time. In most cities, control rooms and studio spaces are, if there are any leftovers, uninhabited or unrented spaces, generally they're old designs, and they are designs that are specific to an older methodology to recording and mixing and music making in general. And some of those designs work for me and some of them don't. Some of those rents are too high, some of them are fine. But I couldn't find a space or a group of spaces that worked for me and my team. And it became clear that I was going to have to build a space. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to build. I've actually never wanted to build a space because there's a tremendous commitment in building a studio space. Obviously, it's a commitment that sometimes exists in a building that you don't own, which then you have to determine whether or not the cost benefit is going to be correct for you. I never felt that building $500,000 studio in someone else's building was a good idea. I always thought that renting somebody else's already built studio was the best thing to do. But in this case, I needed a space that was custom, that was something that was modern, that my team could use, and we could go from room to room quite easily without any issues of sonic differences or system problems. My conversations with Martin came to the acoustic workshop modules, where we could actually create an identical space. We could duplicate that space and make 5 studios sound exactly the same, or perhaps slightly differently depending on the engineer that called that studio home. This concept had never been undertaken. There have been many studios that have tried to duplicate their most popular rooms, but it's never actually happened. I've been in many studios around the world, and never 2 studios were identical. Acoustic Workshop makes it possible to have identical rooms. Acoustic Workshop makes it possible to have them in the same facility or across the world. It allows it. My hope is that this will allow me to do work in Los Angeles in my facility and go to New York. The available studios that I was looking at in Los Angeles tended to be older designs meant for the way music was created in the past. I needed a modern environment, an environment where I could go from room to room, and sonically that room would be virtually identical, or at least close, and I could trust that room, both in its representation, in the music that I was listening to, but also in just its feeling in the room itself. Most of the facilities that I looked at had very, very different rooms from one to the next, because they were developed at a time when large consoles and live space recording was more important. Nowadays we work with smaller equipment setups, and we work much faster on many different products, on many different records, on many different types of recordings. Acoustic workshops allow me to have several rooms sounding virtually identical. They allow me to have a room in Los Angeles and a room in New York that sound virtually identical, that give me the same parameters acoustically, the same responses in reflection, and the ability for my speakers that I know to fill the room the way that I need them to. It allows my clients or my colleagues to listen to something in an environment that I know is going to represent that music the way I need it to. These are the things that need to happen in modern music making. The acoustic workshop control room can be used in many different ways. Obviously, the fact that it can be moved works great for a film lot or TV studio that is working in one location for 2 months and can set up the acoustic workshop module in 4 days. It can easily be shipped by truck or by rail. These are the parameters that we've designed into the acoustic workshop modules. We've also been designing a production suite, so a module specifically for production and writing, a bit smaller, not quite the exacting acoustic parameters that perhaps this control room module has, but it'll be less expensive, and it'll work for songwriters who need a good acoustic environment in their home, in their garage, in their external space, or just next to another control room in a more inexpensive environment. We've designed into the acoustic workshop modules what we think are amazing ways to vary the absorptive and reflective characteristics of a room, which are, for me, elements that are quite specific to me. There have been many rooms that I'll work in that I'll like the reflective nature of the room and or I should say the ratio between reflective and absorptive nature of the control room. The acoustic workshop module actually allows you to vary that quite simply. The fact that for me as a studio owner or going to be owning a studio, sorry, I forgot to turn that stupid thing off. The fact that I as a studio owner, I don't have to hire a studio designer. I don't have to go out and hire electricians and contractors to build my space. I don't have to do all of the choices and the decision making about every specific thing. Removes a serious amount of time for me to develop a studio space. You merely need to make sure that you have 2 15-amp circuits ready for the acoustic workshop to show up. You've got the appropriate air conditioning system ready to connect to the ductwork that's already built in, and your floor is level. No need. Obviously, you can choose the colors of your fabrics and the types of woods that you want to be on your reflective surfaces. But the lighting is all included. The electrical receptacles are also included. much of that decision-making and time-consuming stuff is removed. All you need to do is prepare the site, and the modules show up and are assembled in 4 days. So anyone interested in building a studio for themselves or for commercial purposes can do so quite fast and simply comparatively to a traditional build, which can take 9 months before you even get to listen to the room. The Acoustic Workshop control room modules can be heard before you purchase them. That's never been done before. No one has ever guaranteed you that you could listen to your room before you bought it. No one has been able to say your room will sound like this. They could say it, but they couldn't prove it because every room was a guess. There's obviously science involved, but it was a guess. The Acoustic Workshop will sound the way that you have designed it. You can listen to the Acoustic Workshop module before you buy it. Never before have you been able to know exactly what your room would sound like before you purchased it. In the past, you would wait anywhere from 9 months to a year before your facility was finished, before you could actually play music in that facility. With the Acoustic Workshop modules, you can listen to the room and know what your room is going to sound like before it shows up. That's never been done. That was a big feat for us. We wanted that to happen so that you could go to either an installation in your area or come to our facility here in Duluth, listen to our module and make decisions about reflective or absorptive nature of it, make decisions about lighting and colors, rack modules, things like that, but be able to play music. And most importantly, be able to listen to it before you purchase it. That's never been able to happen before. That was an immediate plus. One of the major points that Martin and I had discussed early on was the development of your space. Whether you're a commercial studio owner or you are a music professional, a music creator, looking to have a personal space to work in. Our goal is to make acoustic workshops easy to purchase, easy to make your decisions about colors, absorptive materials, reflective materials, finishes, placement of windows and doors, very simple. The acoustic properties of the environment are top-notch. I've been sitting here for the last 3 days working, and I'm amazed at the imaging that I can hear in the speakers that I use every day, and the ability for me to make decisions about the material I'm working on as clearly as possible are every bit as good as any traditional build I've been in fact better. I can hear so good in here that I've changed several mixes that I've been working on back in Los Angeles. This to me is the utmost importance. This is what I required from the Acoustic Workshop module. That was the baseline for me, that this environment would give me that kind of response. I'm amazed that we can do that in a modular system, in a movable system, in a system that can be placed in any environment. My hope is that anyone interested in building a studio will consider Acoustic Workshop modules for that space. It will allow you to make decisions about the development of that space in a way that is ready for growth. You could buy one module and easily grow to 2, or add a production writing room next to it, or add a vocal booth or a live space, all built out of similar acoustic workshop modular systems. The system itself is built to be added on to, and it's built to allow you to grow your business, regardless of the real estate in which it's contained. That to me is exceedingly important. If the space you're leasing is small, you can start with acoustic workshop control room. If you want to grow your business and populate a larger space, you can move your acoustic workshop to the larger space and add to it, or add more control rooms or more writing rooms in that space. It changes that paradigm between real estate and the development of your acoustic spaces. The acoustic workshop control room modules are meant for working professionals, people who need well-designed, accurate acoustic environments, people who are on the move, making modern music or create. Fucking hell, man. Some of the parameters that I wanted built into the acoustic workshop modules were a ceiling height that was near 12 feet. This particular module has a ceiling height of 11 feet. I like high ceilings. I've always liked high ceilings in my control rooms. Obviously, if you needed a live space with a higher ceiling, we would just add a building block and you would get 4 more feet of ceiling height. If you needed less, we have half blocks that you can lower the ceiling to 9.5 feet. The customization of the acoustic workshop module is something that works for the modern creative music maker. It works for the director of a film. It works for people, anyone who is in need of an accurate acoustic environment and needs that environment to be placed somewhere close to them, either in proximity or close to the production that they're working on. For me, I'm going to find a warehouse in Los Angeles, and I'm going to put 3 of these. And I'm going to have 3 identical rooms that I can go in and out of and get more work done. Or I can have my client writing and finishing a production in one room, and I can be mixing in the other 2. Or maybe I could be doing a recall for someone else in my third one, and just mixing in my main one. The fact that each one will be identical allows me to have the same speakers, the same amplifiers, and for the most part, the same equipment. And it allows my client to be hearing the same thing I'm hearing. That's never been done before. That's a major improvement on studios of the past. No, how I heard it here, it was more. This is a more accurate environment.
And you're changing it because
the
quality here.
That's correct. Yeah.
Wow,
so the work that I did, I was working on a song in Los Angeles in my studio there, and I came here. I set up my rig, same session, and I could hear better here. I've got the same speakers, obviously, the same amplifier, and I'm using the same software and have the same monitor controller, but I hear things more accurately here. I can hear issues that I could not hear in the room back in Los Angeles. And I want that. That's exceedingly important for me to hear accurately. All engineers want that. That's what they need. And that was the primary issue when I was working with Martin about what this acoustic workshop had to do. All the other issues, whether it's the color of the fabric or the finishes of the wood, were less important to me. The main elements of comfort and and part of that comfort being its acoustic accuracy, the high ceilings, and being able to have windows wherever I want them, whether they look out on the street or on the country, is important to me as well. The fact that I can put a door anywhere I want now or in the future, if I want to create a booth on this side in the future, I can do that, and I can do it easily. If I want to move this 4 feet over so that my colleague can share this space with me, I can do that. That's never been done before. That changes the game as far as how real estate is looked at when it comes to studio building. The fact that I can rent a space and entice or hope my colleagues want to share that space with me eventually, I can do that. And I can do that easily with the Acoustic Workshop modules.
Do you think the bass traps made a huge difference? You know, something similar, or
one of the interesting things that happened when I first got my system set up in this Acoustic Workshop module was immediately all engineers do the same thing, right? We walk around the room and we determine whether or not it sounds different in one spot or the other, primarily because we're used to our clients showing up and sitting in the back of the room and saying, oh, the bass is too loud, or something is different than it is in the sweet spot. Well, immediately walking toward the back of the room, I didn't hear a bass buildup. And I found that to be interesting because all rooms have a bass buildup in the back of them. Now, there are a variety of reasons why there isn't a bass buildup in this room, but partially, of course, it's due to the thickness of the walls and the diffusers that Martin has built into the back wall. And they have a nifty blue light in them as well. But the fact that I was able to walk around the room and hear my mix, not exactly the same as the sweet spot, but very similar, immediately makes me happy, so that I know my clients who are sitting behind me are going to be hearing an accurate representation of my mix. This is extremely important. These are the basics of studio building, and always have been. And the fact that this first Acoustic Workshop control room satisfies that need is significant to me. You know, leave aside the fact that this is a modular build, that this is a build that shows up, is delivered to you. That's enough to wow you. But to sit down and listen and to see it, just the appearance of it is impressive, both inside and out. It's a gigantic thing. Out from the outside and from the inside, it's an impressive environment to be in. We all know that engineers and anyone in the production world spends many hours in their space, and the comfort and feeling you get in that space is sometimes very important. And I was immediately impressed by the feeling I get in this space. You can see some of the furnishings and the finishes are, every bit as good and interesting as finishes you can get in any traditional build. But in this case, you can actually customize them really easily. We have designer fabrics, designer finishes, all those sorts of things are available, and you just choose them and they show up.